Good evening, everyone. I am Vatsavi from IIN Trichy PGPBM 2019-21 batch. I am here to discuss about the key issues and challenges in Indian banking sector. Banking system has come across a long way from the earliest bank being set up as early as in the 18th century. All the banks except cooperative banks are commercial banks and operate with the objective of earning profit. These scheduled commercial banks include public sector, private sector banks, foreign banks and RRBs, and these are listed in the second schedule of RBI Act. The regulating authority is the Reserve Bank of India and it draws its power from the Banking Regulations Act. Performance of SCBs in terms of credits and the deposit. Credit growth for the period from 2010 to 2019 has been at 8.56% with a gradual increase during the last 5 years to 13.65%. The demand for these loans has grown in both corporate and retail loan sector driven by real estate, consumer durables and agriculture sectors. The credit growth for this current financial year is expected to drop by 6.5 to 7% owing to the COVID pandemic. Deposit growth for the period has been at 4 to 6% during the last 10 years. The reason behind it is the strong growth in savings amid the rising disposable income levels. Access to banking system has also improved over these years due to persistent government efforts like Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, which has crossed rupees 1 lakh crore, and the Technological Banking Promotion Acts. The total assets growth for the year between 2010 to 2019 has been at 5.5%. Of the 16.6 lakh crore assets on March 31, 2019, 53% has come from public sector banks. The private sector surpassed public sector in terms of the growth during this last year, with the growth standing at 23.7%. Performance of public sector banks have been largely impacted by the advent of new players in the private sector and foreign banks. To an extent, merger and asset provisioning has also played a role. While the picture has been bright from outside, the banking industry has suffered a huge setback. Most of this have been of legacy in nature and have got accumulated over a period of time. Here are few challenges that Indian banking sector is facing today. Asset quality, capital adequacy, unhedged to foreign exposure, technology adoptions, employee relations and government regulations. We will discuss each of these in detail in the forthcoming slides. The first one is the asset quality. NPAs in the bank started increasing from 2012. Gross NPA, which is nothing but the bad debts and the doubtful assets before provisioning. This rose from 0.94 lakh crore in 2011 to 9.35 lakh crore in 2019. There are situations where some banks have even clocked an NPA percentage of 20%. The pinnacle is reached at 14.6% in 2018 and it has been tapered down to 11.6% in 2019. These incidents occur mainly due to the big infrastructure projects where time and cost play a role, external factors such as material shortages, natural calamities, sometimes product failures, inefficient management, strained labor relationship, willful defaultness, siphoning of funds, global recession and the economical impact and its slowdown. NPA situation is also partly impacted due to the implementation of asset quality review from 2012. This brought in additional categories such as restructured assets also under the NPA classification. Following are the initiatives taken to resolve the issues in asset quality. Debt Recovery Tribunal (DRT), which is to help the banks and the financial institutions to recover their dues speedily without being subject to the lengthy procedures of usual civil courts. IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, Under the aegis of ordinance, the RBI identified 12 defaulters who account for 25% of the NPAs, and the resolution proceedings have been initiated for these 12 cases under the IBC. As per the CRISIL report in 2019 June, recovery through the IBC was rupees 70,000 crore in fiscal 2019, which is twice the amount recovered through other resolution mechanism like DRT, SURFACE, Lok Adalat in fiscal 2018. The other measures implemented include the creation of data warehouses of loans. For small loans, CIBIL or the credit report, and for large loans, it is the Central Repository of Information on Large Credits, CRILIC, that covers all the loans in India over rupees 5 crore. This database is accessible to all the banks and provide a transparent way for the banks to know about the possible defaults if the borrower has already defaulted with another bank, and it ensures the credit worthiness of the borrowers. The State Level Bankers Committee has been proactive in resolving the issues between the banks and the state government. The next issue is the capital adequacy. The major thrust area of Basel III is improvement of the quantity and quality of the capital base of the banks with strong supervision, risk management and disclosure standards. All Indian banks are to implement this Basel III guidelines in a phased manner. RBI estimates that the total additional capital that would be required is INR 1.5 lakh crore. Issue regarding increase in this capital base. Where is the source? And what would be the shareholding structure post the issue? A possible solution could be an increase in infusion by the government or rising funds from the market. With low share prices and a positive outlook of economy, government may likely invest now and reap the benefits by sale at a higher price in future. This enhanced capital requirement will affect ROE expectations of the shareholders. The next issue is the unhedged foreign exposure. According to estimates, about half the foreign currency exposure of the corporate sector is unhedged. Liabilities of the companies will rise in case the rupee depreciates substantially against the dollar and its loan servicing capacity diminishes, which could affect the banks. Higher fluctuations may result in higher risk of default in loan servicing. For this, RBI has given guidelines for incremental provisioning on these unhedged exposure over and above the standard provisions, which is being shared here. The next one is technology adoption. Technology enables the banks to move from a concept of branch customer to bank customer. Non-stop banking from anywhere and anytime banking provide added comfort and convenience to the present tech-savvy customers. The benefits are in terms of the cost, time and market share. Adopting the technology is a must to survive in the race. The challenges include integration of data. The data of the stakeholders is scattered, therefore compilation of this data in a systematic manner is very essential. IT should help the banks not only to deliver the robust and reliable services to their customers, but at a lower cost. How are we going to manage this information effectively? A large group of customers refuse to opt for e-banking facilities due to the uncertainty and the security concerns. Perception is still there, thinking that the online banking is risky due to the frauds and the cybercrime. How are we going to create awareness among the customers on accessing these websites, mobile apps? How are we going to reach the rural customers? And the legal issues is involved in it. The 24/7 electronic banking through the alternate channels has put a need for continuous, uninterrupted and reliable services in the banks, but it has its own delivery challenges. The next is the issues in the employer relationships. The power concentration enjoyed till yesteryears by major trade unions or the associations, particularly after the nationalizations, exerted influence or pressure on the bank managements as well as the government. They percolated a strong notion amongst its employees to misuse their position in few scenarios. A very regular feature in the industry was threats of agitation, non-cooperation, stoppages of work, go-slow tactics, demonstrations, strike. They impact the economy in a very bad way. Government regulations like the priority sector lending, Jan Dhan Yojana, and welfare schemes like Jeevan Bima and Suraksha Bima Yojanas, though they are good for the society, they restrict the bank's freedom to lend for more profitable projects. The government influences to fund high value projects which take long gestation time to earn desired returns and also involve high cost outlay. In this slide, I am going to cover the impact of COVID-19 in the banking industry. As there is a fall in the business activity and the non-essential spend, there is a decline in the credit demand. The rate reductions and the increased volatility has resulted in lower deposits in the investment growth. Customer walk-ins have reduced, operational timings have reduced, and hence the sales and service in the branches have reduced. The business banking correspondence is an essential service, but there is a lack of clarity. Hence, the operations is restricted. Due to the increased volume and the variety of service requirement on digital channels, the thrust towards digital channels is higher. Yet, the operational level, the infrastructure is inadequate. What is the way forward? It is expected that the banking sectors of emerging economies will outgrow those of the developed economies by greater margin. China and India would have a combined share of 35% of the global banking assets by 2050. As the banking moves online, fintech will be the way forward for the banks or be the payment systems. With more modernization and digitization, conventional banking will pave way for the next generation banking. The brick and mortar branches will become click and mortar. As our RBI governor said, the Indian banking sector is propelled forward to a higher orbit. Banks would have to strive hard to remain relevant in the changed economic environment by working their business strategies, designing products with the customers in mind, and focusing on improving the efficiency of their services. Thank you.